All right. Okay. So taking, hi, everybody. Yeah. So this is just kind of like on the fly. So if you're joining me from my YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, I'm so glad you're here. I usually do my book chats on Wednesday nights, but I haven't read any. I read a Harlequin romance book, but I don't think that Lisa McAllister, my sister, wants to come on for that. And if you're watching and you are brave enough to talk about self love, body image, any of that, if you are brave enough to join me live, I will drop the invite so that you can join me. I'd love to have a two-way conversation. But if nobody is brave enough to come and join me live, that's okay. We can just talk like this. I am more than happy to just have this conversation because it is something that, I think about every single day. And I am going to make sure that this is public on my Facebook right now because when it is not, I don't see anybody's comments. Okay. And I forgot to do that when the intro was coming on. All right. So if you're just joining me, my name is Melody McAllister. Who am I? I am an educator. I work for an ed tech company called Spaces. I am a mother of five. I am a wife. I am somebody who has struggled with body image like pretty much my whole life. And I have just been over the last few years, I have been learning how to change my own narrative and to start thinking more healthy so that when I do become either the goals that I have in the future or just who I am right now. I just want to be pleased with that person. Like I realized a few years ago that maybe someday I actually would be that after picture. We're so obsessed with before and afters. And what if I became that big after, that wonderful Cinderella moment where everything changes? Or what is it? The pretty woman where you change into, everybody's dream image, what society holds as beautiful. Maybe that will happen for me, right? And one day I realized if that even happened, I would probably still hate myself because all I do is talk so badly about myself. And I just started working on that a few years ago. I worked on that with the help of friends that also, we all have different body types. It's not just for people who feel like they're super fat like I do, but people from all different types of body, images. We were talking like, how do we change that narrative? How do we talk to ourselves with love like we would talk to our best friends? If we talk to our best friends like we talk to ourselves sometimes, we wouldn't have friends. We just wouldn't do it. So if you want to come on and if you are brave enough to talk about this with me, I will drop the link. A couple of people are watching. So I would love to have a conversation, or you can just join in from wherever you are. I'd love to see your comments and talk with you. The first thing I want to talk about is just taking up space. Something that I thought about this weekend when I was flying back from California to Alaska and oh my gosh, it was a nightmarish a flight. Like it took me longer to get from Palm Springs to Anchorage than it did to get me from Orlando. It was just an all day thing. And the last flight that I had home, I was not upgraded. I was sitting in a regular seat and of course, I always try to get by the window because I feel like I could squish myself up against that window a little better and it will be more comfortable for me because it's a long flight from Seattle to Anchorage or a few hours. And so I realized that some of my discomfort is me holding myself so tightly because I feel like touching thighs with people. I always talk about touching thighs. I hate touching thighs. My hips are big. I do go over my seat a little bit on a regular seat and, the spillover. And I don't want to be one of those people that, other people are like resenting, like, oh my God, they're so fat. They should buy two seats. They take up more than one seat. And the truth is, like when we a lot of times we put the bar down, it depends on what airline I'm on. When you put those bar downs, like it will cut into my hips. I mean, let's just be real here. I'm one of those people that sometimes has to ask for a seat belt extender. So for me, taking up space means constantly trying to shrink myself. And I've been doing that for years. And the thing about it is, I sit by people who don't shrink themselves. They're touching thighs with me because they are also kind of large. So I think it's a silly thing that I am always trying to shrink and not take up as much space when other people, they don't give a damn. They're just going to be who they are. And so I really thought about that on this leg home this last weekend. And I thought about how I was so uncomfortable because I was trying to hold myself in like this so that I didn't touch anybody, but how uncomfortable I was. Oh, good. I have a comment coming in. Hey, Sarah. Oh my gosh, Doc. It's so good to see you. If you feel like joining in, I hope that you, okay. Dr. Sarah Thomas, she is somebody that has helped me on this journey. Actually, like a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I feel like it was when I first moved to Alaska. We were actually in a group. We're still in a group. We just are not as active of talking nice to ourselves. So she has been on this journey in a lot of ways. So I want to say, I love you. Oh my gosh, Barbara. Yes. Thank you, Barbara. You're a breath of fresh air. Thank you. And if you guys want to join me live, I will drop the link and you can join me. Okay. But when I'm talking about taking up space, and maybe you have felt this way, just how you shrink yourself for whatever reason. Maybe it's metaphorically. I don't know if I said that right. I love you. Yes. And so I thought about how painful it was for me to shrink myself so that I could be taking up less space so that I wouldn't be getting on other people's nerves. And I started to think how they weren't doing that for me. They didn't care. They were just trying to sleep. I know. I understand. I'm just glad you're still awake. Okay. So thank you for joining me. And that really started to kind of take shape in my mind. And I wanted to, I just thought, and today I follow this amazing person on Instagram. Her name is Judy Gaither, I think, or Judy. I will drop the link. I'll find it and I'll drop the link. But she's an amazing advocate for women of all shapes and sizes. And she is a little bit larger, but she's beautiful. She's very stylish. She's always talking about like how to dress and make you feel better. And she put something out today that just really resonated with me. She was like, take up space. Like it is okay. We are worthy to take up space, not just with our bodies, but also like with our minds and the way that we talk, our attitudes, our thoughts. Like it's okay. You know, there's so much about what we how we grow up and what is projected onto us, what is not like acceptable for people of different sizes, or we feel like we have to have this picture perfect body shape or this like this personality that everybody will love when really that's just a whole bunch of BS. You know what I mean? We are who we are. Wow. Yes. Worthiness. Thank you, Barbara. Yes. Yes. I have struggled with feeling like I am not worthy for so many years. And so this is why this is so dear to me, because it's like just been the last couple of years that I have started to feel like I am as worthy as anybody else, regardless of my size. And I still struggle. And something that happened to me a couple of days ago, this is something that I swore that I would never do again. And I cried. Um, and I'm just going to call this the before and after obsession. This is what traps me. And this is what traps a lot of people who are struggling with their weight or struggling with their self-image, that after, like we want to have that picture perfect after. Well, I started listening to this. I got absorbed in this diet company. I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to like, they're earning money, whatever. I'm not trying to make anybody a villain. What they do is they promise you that if you follow their program that you are going to drop the pounds quickly. And I've already told myself that this is not how I want to lose weight, that all I want to do is be healthy. But it gets to you sometimes. You get sucked into this. And I when I was coming back after that crazy airplane ride when I was trying to shrink myself and I realized I was in pain. I was trying to shrink myself so long that I had a headache, that I was near tears when my husband finally picked me up on late Sunday night. And it just got to me. And so I was listening to this guy talk about his company and how he promises that it's not like every other diet program, that it's specifically for people like me and my body shape, my endomorph body. And then I started looking at the pictures, and this is what I should have clued in. There was nobody that was really large like me. Everybody that he had helped or his program had helped were relatively like 20 pounds, within 20 pounds of their ideal weight. And y'all, I am not 20 pounds within my ideal weight. I have at least 100 pounds. Thank you, Eddie. Yes. Oh my God, Eddie, you are somebody who really just inspires me. Like I've been looking at your posts and what you do to like get you are talking about community self-care, especially this last weekend in California. So again, if you want to join me, feel free, but or maybe not tonight because you're not prepared, but if you ever want to join me going live to talk about this, please, I would love to have you on as well. But thank you for joining and I appreciate your vulnerability. You definitely lead by example. So anyway, getting back to my story, yeah, I fell for it and I spent that $47. I thought $47 for this amazing program that is going to help me get to that after, that wonderful image that I really want to look. But you know what? Then, even though they advertised that they were not like every other diet program out there, what did they do when I signed up? As soon as they got my credit card, they talked about what else could I get. Maybe I needed math now. I needed their program to make sure that they were counting the calories for me. So for $20 more, a special $20 more, they would count my calories and do the math for me. And then for $20 extra, they would send me meal plans. They would send me the nutrition tablets or whatever, the pills that I would also need. And so it started snowballing. And when it started snowballing like that, I was like, "Oh my god, I did it again." I swore to myself I would not be giving these people my money. I swore to myself that I would not do anything that made me have to be dependent on a pill for the rest of my life. And I swore to myself that I wasn't in this for the fast weight loss. That it's not healthy. It's never worked for me in the past. Why would I do it again? But here I was suckered into this. So immediately I try to end it, but it was too late. They had my credit card. So it was after hours. I tried to call. It is a scam. It is a scam. It's always a scam, especially when people who are ripped and have never experienced what it's like to be large are trying to sell you their diet program. I mean, if that was, I felt all sorts of foolish. I'm not going to lie about it. Seriously. Anyway, yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, I will drop a link. Yes. Oh my God. Yes, Barbara. I'm going to drop a link. So anyway, I did get my money back. I emailed them and I also talked to a friend that I kind of stay in touch with so that I could stay accountable to that. I just let her know, like she and I talk about this stuff all the time, and she was very comforting to me, and that was amazing. And so I'm dropping the link, so feel free to come on. And I can't believe how brave you are, Eddie. If you see the stream and you want to come on, please feel free to. Anybody that wants to talk about this with me. I know I'm so glad I got my money back too. And I'm so glad that I didn't just say, "Oh, it was only $47." It was more than just $47. It was like it was a trap and I fell for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So thank you for that. You know how it is. Um, so yeah, and I started thinking about just the projection that we fall into, why this is such a trap for us. Okay. All right, Eddie, I see that. Oh my gosh. I'm reading this comment, but I'm trying real hard to accept myself as I am and try harder each day. Yes, to make better choices. Yes, I love the space that you take up, Cindy. Oh my gosh. And if you want to be on this, you can, or sometime. And Eddie, I'm looking forward to you and to coming on. And yes, Barbara, I hope you saw the link. So thank you guys for just, tuning in. This is amazing. And I want to talk about the projection trap that we fall into. A lot of times it's because of what we grew up with. And I know that I'm not trying to villainize anybody. I feel like my mom struggled with this when we were growing up and she didn't want us to become large. I feel like she felt like the more, she had four of us and she had she didn't, oh, you didn't? Okay. Um, I'm going to do it again. So bear with me while I'm dropping Barbara the link. Barbara, I'm going to do this through the messenger. So check your messenger in just a second. Barbara, there you are. Here we go. There we go. I just sent it to you through the messenger. Thank you for bearing with me. And I think a lot of us do this. Our parents, we take on what they are projecting onto us, not because they're bad people, but because they have their own issues with weight. They have their own relationship with weight. And I think about how I project my body image onto my own daughters. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to change the narrative for myself, to change how I viewed myself, because I didn't want my kids, whether it was my daughters or my sons. I feel like when we are projecting this stuff to everybody around us, our kids, even our students, if we're a lot of us are educators. This isn't just for educators, by the way, for everybody, but a lot of my friends were educators, right? But we project so much onto people that that's how we start seeing ourselves, or how we start looking at the world through those lenses, and they are traps. And then I'm going to bring up Barbara in just a minute, and we start feeling unworthy because we never can measure up to those projections that we that we feel like we have to. So, oh my gosh, here's my friend Barbara Gruner. How are you, Barbara?
Hey, Melody, how are you?
I am doing great, and it's so nice to have a friend up here who's going to be vulnerable, just like me. So, how are you doing? What is it like on this journey of loving yourself? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, well, the loving myself, I'm still tenuous on it, but you actually got me started last year in March. I think it was a year ago when you were like, it's National Women's Month and you need to make a magazine cover and put yourself on it. And I'm like, what? I can't put myself on a magazine cover. And then you taught me how to use Canva, and I did that. And I have been working on probably some of your advice, right? Because that's that worthiness stuff. And I want to share what I learned in a podcast this week. David Kessler was the guest, and he said, judgment demands punishment. And to me, that is so profound, because when we go around judging ourselves and our weight and how we feel about whatever, and now we want to punish ourselves because judgment demands punishment. And then we get caught in this cycle of like, I'm not worthy because I got on the scale and I was 160 or whatever. And like, okay, but maybe I can hide it with a bigger shirt. Like, how have I reduced myself to a number? So when you talked about not fitting, like taking up too much space, it really started resonating. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna jump on and tell you that everything you're saying is resonating right now.
I love that. Thank you, number one. You are so brave. Like, this is amazing that you jumped on with me. I appreciate it so much. Everything you're saying is so like real talk. How many times do we punish ourselves because of that stupid scale? I mean, that scale is inanimate, like it's not alive, yet we live by it and we do punish ourselves. And I cannot tell you how many times that I felt like that scale has sent me into a downward spiral. For years I wouldn't get on a scale, but I mean, it's almost like you kind of need the scale because you do need to get healthy, but
Right.
you shouldn't be living by the scale. It shouldn't be your enemy, but it's that bad relationship that we have with it, that we form because we feel like it is punishment. And you're so right about that. And I love that you shared the story too about like it's National Women's Month. Can we celebrate ourselves? Can we talk about all the good things? I mean, it is so hard to change, and I'm going to to changing our self narrative, like
Mhm.
saying that we are good at something, not waiting for somebody else to lift us up, but actually lifting ourselves up.
Yeah.
Why do you think that you struggled with that as much as you did?
I think it's the balance between a healthy pride and the boasting that you're told not to do as you're being brought up. Like, children are to be seen and not heard, and
Mhm.
not just women, but children. And then as you grow up, you kind of get like, oh, well, am I still supposed to be seen but not heard? And then do, do I really have something valuable to say? Because maybe I'm just saying the stuff I heard on a podcast. And I don't know. I think it's just like that balance, like that fine line. And I think back to the weight thing too, trying to get healthy and saying, when am I going to be healthy? I took a scale away for years and years, but the scale is a data point, right? And so in 2020, we had two kids getting married, and we're like, man, we just want to look good at the kids' weddings. And so I don't know, we each had 20 pounds to lose, my husband and I. So we were like going 2020 and 2020. And and,
That's
and so
cool.
we signed up for the Noom app. And now I didn't want anybody to help me. I'm like, I can do this myself. I'm a, smart grown up, whatever. I can, all the colors on my plate. I can do. Well, I wasn't doing it, and I was just creeping higher in my weight. And then I'd say, oh, it's menopause. It's fine. And oh, I deserve that ice cream, and just all the unhealthy stuff that you have in this fight with food. And I got to tell you, the Noom app really helped us. And I'm not trying to sell Noom. I signed up for free, and then I had to pay. Of course, on the end was $75, but I used it. Then I coached my husband, and we actually met our goal of 2020. We each did 20 in 2020, and we looked really good at the weddings. And more importantly, we felt really good.
Right. I love that. A couple of people, Dr. Sarah's, she says, um,
She hates the
so
scale.
she hates the scale and she's only 13. So Dr. Sarah, like, okay, I must have missed something about part of this story, but I guess a 13-year-old is already struggling and you have some sort of like relationship with her. So let us know what that is all about. But you're right. Like that narrative starts when we're young. The projection that, the world or the people around us are putting onto us starts very young. So I'm glad that you are there for her. Stacy says, I am definitely feeling this after having my baby, being of advanced maternal
Um,
age and then being considered too big before I really started to gain weight through the pregnancy. It made it so hard to not be hard on myself as I was growing a baby since I was worried about being way too big before my son was born. Oh my gosh, Stacy. Yes.
mhm.
Yes. Oh my
Yes,
gosh, what you're
I was
saying is
198 pounds when I delivered Joshua, and he was not 50 pounds of baby, right? He was 10. And
right.
so then the other night at dinner, he asked us how hard it was to lose the baby weight, because he's 23 now. And it was so interesting to talk about, because I said, honey, you just feel like you're going to have that baby and you're going to be back. You're going to be back, and then you're not back. In fact, you still look pregnant for a while. And that was such a shock to someone who had like worked pretty hard to, I was never thin, but I tried not to be too heavy. And I don't know, I always felt like I carried a lot of weight. I was 5'8" in the 8th grade. So I just felt like I was always big. I was always
Mhm.
big. And I just didn't want to be big anymore.
Right, right. And Sarah clarifies that that was a student in her virtual PE class. Yeah. So,
Um,
first of all, like I completely understand, and I think that when we look at people like in magazines, like women that are doing it all, they're have these incredible careers, they have babies, and then all of a sudden they bounce back from, after post
right.
pregnancy, and they
Better
look
than before.
better than before. How is that even possible? And good for those women. I'm not going to bash any woman. I'm not going to say, yeah, because they can afford a personal trainer.
No.
Regardless of what they can afford, they had to work for that. There's
Mhm.
some sacrifice that goes into that I don't necessarily think that I'm going to sign up for. So good for them. But for those of us that it doesn't happen for, like, should we feel shame? And also, Stacy, I was an older mom as well. I had my last child. I had almost all of my babies in my 30s. Wit was born as I was 37. And I can tell you right now that I still carry a lot of, especially the pregnancy that I had with Wit. I have not bounced back. So I want to say that, we love you. Thank you for sharing. And the thing is that what if we don't bounce back for a few years? Are we supposed to hate ourselves until we get to that after image or how we think that society will accept us again? Or can we love ourselves right now for who we are? And something that helped me, and I talked about this a little bit earlier on when I went live, was being in a group of women. We our goal was to talk nicely to ourselves because we had all had this horrible narrative, this negative self-talk narrative that was just, it was hurting us, and we knew that it was hurting us. And I just want to say I have a memory of just looking at, this is a little TMI, but I'm just going to share it anyway because everything I share is TMI, so here we go. But it was really hard for me to be completely naked in front of a mirror because I hated what I looked like so much. I don't even know how my husband like wanted to have anything to do with me. I mean, that's how strongly I hated my body. And I remember when I started being in this group and I just looked at myself and I'm like, you know what, Melody? Like, you are incredible. Like, you birthed 6 babies, 5 of which are alive, right? But my body has taken the brunt of a lot of life, and it is still there, and it's what I would consider lumpy, and I have this like inner tube that goes around me, and I'm like, I continuously bash myself. But that night I remember just saying, but you're amazing, you've done a lot of things, you've done some hard things, you've gone through some hard things, and here you are, and this body has been there for you through it all. Can you just love me? And I did. Like, that was the defining moment for me when I realized that this is the body that I have, and I just want to love it. I'm tired of talking badly to it. So thank you for listening to that crazy story. But yeah, like, and I especially, you've had children, Barbara, that we have this image of what we're supposed to be like. And so how did you change that narrative as well? Like in your mind, like, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, right. I don't think we're bouncing back. I don't know. I'm 20. The baby's 23 now. I was 38 when I had him. So at 60, there's not a lot of bouncing going. There is some bouncing, but it's not. Anyway, I still struggle with that. I love baths so much, but I hate being in the bath. I just, ugh. I love baths so much, and the Epsom salts and the essential oils. But I
Yes.
have to get beyond feeling like a beach whale in the bathtub. And I don't know when that goes away because I'm 60 and it's still there. But what you have to do is move to acceptance beyond what those old tapes are, that somehow that number on that scale or that extra little, fold in your tummy is nothing to do with who you are or what you have to offer the world. It's an outwardly thing, and really what's important is like it sounds cliche, but like what's your heart doing? And Melody, you have the biggest heart of anybody in my Twitter PLN. Like when you can get to the heart of the matter, then that exterior stuff stops mattering as much. I don't think I'll ever be comfortable in the bathtub. I just don't know. But because it kind of all anyway. But it's when you can get to the heart. Like Kristen Neff has helped a lot. Her self-compassion work. She is out of the University of Texas in Austin, Kristen Neff, and her self-compassion work. When you think about the things you say to yourself, you would never say to a friend. And when
Right.
you start going, da, 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 no, would you say that to Carol? Then don't pull that crap on yourself. And so,
Yes.
yes, like that. I love that you were in a group where you talked kind to yourself. Why wouldn't you? That's so right on. But again, it's that balance between, am I blowing smoke or puffing myself up when I should be building others up? No, it should be the same. It's not selfish. It's an obligation, really, to be a healthier you so you can be a healthier we.
Right. And so that the people in your life, I mean, we affect the people in our lives so much. I want my daughters, especially just because I'm a woman, I think that that's just a different kind of relationship with my daughters than my sons. But for my sons as well, like I want them just to speak kindly to themselves. I don't want them to have to battle like I have battled for so many years, where I haven't enjoyed my life because of what I perceived as others judging me when probably nobody really cared. It was all up here. And then
Mhm.
to think that I didn't do things that I wanted to do because I thought others would judge me. Again, I don't think that others were really judging me. If they were judging me, they weren't anybody that was in my life that needed to be in my life. And Eddie, I dropped the link. I sent it to you via Messenger. If you see that, just let me know if you don't see that. And Sarah, thank you. My Sarah says that my smallest I was a size 8. You felt like crap. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I know, right? Doctor, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yes. This stuff keeps I know, right, Sarah? Like I get it. Thank you for sharing that so much. And I feel that. How many times have you gone to the doctor and I remember these ladies taking my hand, this doctor, and she's like, "You are morbidly obese. You
Oh
really
no.
have to work on losing weight." And I'm like, "Lady, I am. That's why I'm here." I mean, just yes. Okay, now we have another guest, another friend. Hey, Eddie.
Hey Eddie.
Hey, how are you? Good to see everybody.
Do you and Barbara know each other?
I don't think so.
Nice to meet you.
Hi Eddie, nice to meet you. Where are you in from?
I live in Central California, about an hour south of Fresno. If you've ever heard of Fresno before,
Very
Mhm.
nice.
Yes, yes.
it's part
So
of the
Eddie,
non-glamorous part of California. So
yeah. So the fact I'm so glad that you're here, Eddie. Actually, you were on my mind when I started thinking about what I would do this. I'm so glad that you actually caught this broadcast because I've been looking at your posts all week and I've been following you for a while now and you are doing amazing things, not just for your health, not just for your own health and for yourself, but like a community wide, like you reach out to others and say, "Hey, if you want to join me." And I just think that's so amazing when we think about like community self-care. So I would love to know anything you want to share, but also how you are changing your self narrative.
yeah, I mean, I just want to appreciate you and your vulnerability for talking about this because this is not easy to talk about. But I think Brene Brown, my sister, sent me this video about how like joy comes from vulnerability and like uh, you know what I mean? Like there's just to
Hmm.
relate to different struggles. Like when you mentioned the flying on the airplane, I used to travel for my job and God, those nightmares asking for that, like making eye contact with the flight attendant, like, I'm about to ask for an extender. Don't make me ask for it. You know what I mean? Like, what I'm, and you know what I mean? So I feel you on that. I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think I love that you're centering around love yourself, because that's one thing I think loving myself for a long time. Self-hatred that happens, and because of whatever trauma or whatever, things like that. But I think it does all come back to that, right? Like, I've been reading a lot of books about trauma, the way you medicate and things like that. And I know I've been like, "What's up, Dr. Sarah, Dr. Thomas?" I know I've been like medicating myself, food for a long time. Avoiding some things, and but also it's cultural too. Like, I think like looking at with help my therapist, she's helped me analyze like my relationship with food and the culture, like you said, the way you're raised, and make sure you clean your plate. There are people starving, whatever. It's like, if I'm not even hungry, why should I be cleaning my plate? You know what I mean? Like, these are things that we don't think about, or that everyone has to, feed. You have to be fed all the time. It's like, we're fed all the time. So I think there's a lot of things. This book I've been reading a lot lately. I've been reading a lot of Toltec books. I'm not sure if you're familiar with wisdom.
What kind of books? Toltec?
Toltec. It's an indigenous Mexican culture in like under the Aztec Empire. So Don Miguel Ruiz, he wrote the book The Four Agreements, which is they're really simple to read. And then his son wrote one, and they're all tied to like ancient wisdom, right? Like the way these ancients lived. And I think there's a lot of, and I'm not just, I definitely vibrate with it more because I'm like, my family's from that part of Mexico where a lot of them are from. So, but I think there's like super practical jewels to learn. His son, Don Miguel, or I think it's Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., wrote one called The Mastery of Self. And I really like that one. I reread the Four Agreements, and it's hitting so much differently. But The Mastery of Self talks about this idea of like unconditional love, that you have to love yourself unconditionally, flourish and live the new dream. They call it live your best life. Because when you put conditional love on yourself, like, I'll be happy when I hit this weight. I'll be happy when I do this. Like, you're setting yourself up for failure already. Like, if you're not in tune with loving the whole being and the process of getting there, like, I've been taking a little better care of myself through changing some habits, and I would like to hit a certain thing, but I'm like, I'm not going to wait to love myself until then. You know what I mean? Like, and I know it's going to be a struggle. Every day has its challenges, but all in all, like, you know what I mean? I have to look and look at the body of work and be like, I love myself. I do good work. I do great work. I have great friends. I have great family. Like, and it's hard though. It's a struggle. And I've been really focusing on that unconditional love piece. And like, I wake up and like, man, I thank the Creator every day for this body, this mind, to change my habits, to, you know what I mean? To want some more aligned to my values, because a lot of meditations I do also, they align, like, how do we change habits? Like, it's not going to be based on, I want to drop certain weight. What's really the root of the habit you want, the thing you value? I want to have energy to give to my nephews, to pour into my nephews, to be there with my mom, my sisters. I want to pour my energy. I want to have the most energy to pour into the kids that I serve. You know what I mean? And to be fully present for them. So to change those destructive habits that we've had, it's like we have to do that mindfulness and align it to our values. Why do I really want this? You know what I mean? I want to love myself more every day. And it's like silencing that critic. This is something that Don Miguel Ruiz talks about too. You have a critic and an ally. It's kind of like that angel and the devil. And you have to, neither of them are actually you. That is not yourself, but you have to silence your critic and listen more to your ally, your coach, as that coach coaches you up a little bit, so there's,
yes,
we got to talk ourselves up,
Yeah, and I so many things that you're saying are resonating with me. Just going from literal self-hatred to, and I think it's a God thing, like, going back to, like, I feel like I believe that I was knit in my mother's womb, that I am perfectly made, that I am wonderfully made, and I know that up here, but did I feel it? I had to, like, really, like, step into that, like, purposefully step into that, and it was hard, like you just said, it's a lot of work, especially when most of your life, or all of your life, for me, up until 2 years ago, I hated myself. But how could I love God? How could I be faithful and hate what he gave me? What the very vessel that is, like, helping me to live out the purpose that he gave me. There's so much to that. I appreciate that you shared that, but it is hard work. I'm so glad that you're here. Stacy says, this is so great to think about as I'm raising a young one. I want to make sure that he doesn't get my concerns projected on him. I want him to be able to love himself, from the beginning. Agreed. That's what I want for my children as well. That Dr. Sarah, you are on fire. Thank you for joining us. And I know she had to go to bed, but yes. And I just did this, like, I'm so glad you guys are here. Like, literally, I thought this is what I'm going to do. I've been in my pajamas for the last 2 days. I thought I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to fix my hair, put a little makeup on, and then I'm just going to go live and see if anybody wants to join me. So this actually was like the perfect experiment. And I'm so glad. We could keep talking. I don't want to, like, Barbara, do you have any thoughts? Because I feel like I will talk a lot. So is,
I love the idea of self-love, and I haven't until recently dug into it much, but I shared it with my 8th graders on Wellness Wednesday because we looked at the definition, and it really just is about appreciating your own well-being. Like, the definition had the word well-being in it. And I just thought, if we can get our next generation to just be mentally well or better than we have been, or like just to break some of those old messages or those old scripts. And they were a little awkward at first, but to get these kids talking, and one of them said, if my mom had more self-love, she would have left my dad sooner because he was so mean to her and she had to walk on eggshells. And to have these 8th graders sharing that with one another in the safety of our, before we start acquiring the Spanish that we're there to meant to do, I think it's so pivotal, because if someone would have had those conversations, Melody, with you and me, or Eddie, I don't know your background, but like you said, it comes out of trauma or whatever our history is. If someone could have had those conversations with us sooner, we might not be at 40 or 30 or 60 or whatever, and still trying to work this stuff out.
right. I love that you said that about your student, that if she had loved herself more, it's easy to look at other people too. And it's good for us to do that because they're closest to us and their decisions, especially our parents, it really makes a difference for our lives. But since both of you are on this journey, what are some signs that that you're different, that you have embraced it? What are some signs that that you love yourself?
One of mine is just being comfortable being alone. Like, I will go and sit by my pool alone, and I always had to stay busy. I had to be busy because if I stayed busy, that was just safest, or I don't know, whatever the rationale was. I am more and more comfortable in my own skin. I would say that's probably the number one for me. And then the secondary one is getting nearer to God. You brought up a higher power. Like, God doesn't want me loathing or, shaming or all that stuff. God wants me to say, it doesn't matter what the scale says, get going. You've got a bigger purpose than, worrying about where your weight is today. So it's kind of a constant battle, but it's getting easier, I would say.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Barbara. That's awesome. Eddie, what do you think? And if you don't want to share, you don't have to.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Thank you for having me on, by the way. This is awesome. I think the signs that I've learned that I love myself is I pour into myself. I pour into myself the things that I love to do. And it's also, but it takes some coaching and some parenting myself. I heard Mel Robbins, I think she has a great TED Talk. And she said, nobody told you that when you're in high school, you're going to have to parent yourself and tell yourself to get up and go do this. And I liken it to like coaching too, because I used to love playing organized sports and I would bust my tail for my coaches, but nobody ever told me if a coach would have told me, you know, you're gonna have to coach yourself to run that extra lap and to push yourself. If someone would have told me that, I would have been helpful. But I feel like I'm doing that for myself now. I'm like, hey, you got to get up a little earlier and journal and do some meditation, get your solitary. So I agree with Barbara. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
need that. I need that time to feel me, and like writing. I journal every morning now, and I that helps me like get out all the critic stuff. It gets out the critic and the ally stuff, so I can listen to it, but I can minimize it. I could close that, shrink that window, open that window, and then just keep doing things that I love and make time for me. You know, even as much as I love you know, meeting you in person for the first time, right? Which was amazing. And I love seeing all my friends. I love me more than I love my friends, to be honest. So I knew I had to go. There's gonna be a lot of pull and go meet over here, go over here. So I made sure I went to Joshua Tree for the day before and hiked on my own to get some meditation. So I just poured into myself. So I was ready for that. The day after, same thing, connected, then to disconnect. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I care about myself, I'm trying to keep that balance so that I can pour in to pour out, you know?
Yes. I love that. And some of the signs that I know is some of the same things, like doing things that work for me, making sure that my boundaries, and it's hard. It's hard to put those boundaries in place, especially when other people don't understand your boundaries or don't necessarily have boundaries themselves, so they don't understand the importance of your boundaries. But I have worked on maintaining them. And also, you know, when I started going down the spiral, because I don't know if you heard the story, Eddie, but I threw money at another diet program. I ended up getting my money back because I came to my senses in time. But I started talking to myself like, I'm doing things that I never thought I could do. The fact that I was in California this last week doing 2 conferences, working for an ed tech company that I truly love, but doing things like my whole job is so much different than what it was in the classroom, and it's physically demanding. And I when I took this job, I wasn't at a place where I knew that I could physically do it. I made myself get there. Like right after Christmas, I'm like, "Girl, you got to start moving. You're about to go on a plane to Florida. Like you got to and you're going to be on your feet for hours on end. Like you can't be, you know, I had gained like over 40 pounds up and down through this pandemic. I'm like, you know, I don't expect you. This is how I talk to myself, like, Melody, I don't expect you to drop it all, but you know, you need to get your ass moving. And so I did, and I haven't stopped moving. And on my watch, you know, and Alice Keeler sent me this watch for my birthday. At first I hated it. I'm like, don't send me that watch. I will not use that watch. I don't want that watch. And I resented the watch at first, but she sent it to me anyway because that's what she does. That's how she is. But I love you, Alice. If you watch this, but I don't think she will. But the thing is that I started using it. I'm like, what do I have in my life that will help motivate me? And so instead of resenting this when it told me to stand, I started making the goals a part of my routine, and just very proud that I haven't stopped moving. I've dropped 10 pounds like in the last 3 months. It's nothing earth shattering, but I do pray that it will stay off. That's what I'm praying, that the changes I'm making are permanent so I don't have that yo yo. Um, Although I have been disappointed, but then again, that forgiveness and that grace that I'm extending to myself so that I don't go backwards, because that self-loathing is so hardwired in me that I feel like if I don't learn how to forgive myself, and if I feel super guilty, that I'm just going to go backwards, and I don't want to do that. That's how I know that I love myself. Yeah.
Nice. I want to echo the journaling too. I have my journal right there, and it just stays close. And it's gratitude, and sometimes they're letters to my brother who passed away, and sometimes it's just meanderings and wanderings and ramblings. But getting it down in print, and then just scribble, scribble, scribble,
Wow.
and it's just so it's cathartic, right? And it's also a part of expression, like self-expression. And then I think too, it's kind of nice because when you do pass away, then that's something that you're a little bit leaving behind for your kids.
Yeah.
If they feel like reading it. Some of our deepest treasures from my brother's house, which is selling tomorrow, by the way, were his journal books. And we got to read his deepest thoughts, and that's what he left behind for us.
Wow. That is amazing. I know it's been a tough year for you, Barbara. You've gone through a lot of loss. So I thank you that you're sharing that and just being so vulnerable with us tonight. I appreciate it so much. I've gone on a little bit longer than I normally do. So I just want to ask you guys, what is one thing that you feel like somebody could do right now? They could start tomorrow. They don't have to wait for Monday. What is something that they could do right now to start loving themselves or to get onto that journey where they can start embracing themselves for who they are?
I think they could forgive a resentment. A lot of stuff starts with forgiveness. That's probably one of my hardest things to do. When I do some deep soul searching, I have not been good at forgiving, and that starts with forgiving yourself for sure, or forgiving the parents who put some of this stuff on you. They did the best they could,
Right.
or the perpetrator of the trauma. Like, forgiveness is going to be a great first step, and it's not easy. I would never say to anyone, oh, it's just so easy, just forgive. No, no, no. But it's important. It's worth it.
Agreed. Agreed. And just knowing that the people that you want for sometimes we feel like forgiveness has to come from somebody else because they hurt us or
Um,
from ourselves. We can't find it within ourselves. But honestly, something that has helped me to forgive myself and to forgive others is it's connected. Like I want to love myself and I want other people to love me as I am. But in order for that to happen, I have to also love other people for who they are, regardless if they change into the person I want them to be, regardless if they're ever going to ask me for forgiveness. It's not going to be hinged on that. It just is something that you have to start now. I appreciate that you said that. It is really hard. Eddie, what about you? What is something that you feel like somebody could start tomorrow or start right now?
I think for to do something to pour into yourself, I think to show yourself an act of love, I think you have to show that. Like you have to physically show up for yourself. And that's different for everybody because the constraints, the family life. So what is like I for me, I asked this to a couple friends and I ask this to myself often, like, what can I do right now? What do I need right now? Do I need to take a walk? Do I need to close the laptop? Take a walk? Do I need to drink more water? You know, like just hydrating your body is like a huge act of love to
It
your
is.
body. Do I need to reach out to someone? You know what I mean? Like I think we try and shoulder it too often on our own and like, you know, this is really cathartic. This is healing just to share. As soon as we share a problem, it cuts it in half. You know, but whatever that one thing is for people, I think like do I just need to, you know, if I'm stuck on my computer, do I need to like break it into 35-minute chunks and just take a 5-minute break every 30 minutes? You know, it's different for everybody. So
Right. Totally. So Barbara shared that she thinks one act that you can do to find self-love and to accept it, yourself is to start learning how to forgive, whether it's yourself or others. Eddie, you just shared that it's like doing something to love yourself, whether it's reaching out to somebody else or just finding something, physically that you need. Maybe it's drinking water. So I want to add, and this is something I've thought about. I'm actually doing this right now. So I am huge on moisturizing.
huh?
So I feel like I don't look 41. Some people tell me somebody last week in California thought I was fresh out of school. Seriously. I didn't even know her. I didn't bribe her or anything. She thought I don't even know how she thought that, but whatever. I'm going to take it. But I feel like moisturizing your skin is something that you can do for yourself just as a way of self-love. And today and yesterday what I started doing when I was putting on the lotion, I started actually talking to my body. And I know that sounds so stupid, but the
Mm.
things that I hate about my body, instead of focusing on that, I did the opposite. So when I was rubbing the lotion on my legs, I'm like, you carried me through a week of craziness and you did it. So thank you, legs, for carrying me. And then I'm always obsessed with my flabby arms. So I'm like, you know what, arms? You carried suitcases, you put stuff up, and you hugged people. You're amazing. And then, of course, when I get to my belly, because again, I've had 5 kids, right? So I started thinking, just saying, you birthed amazing and beautiful children, and just all the things about me that normally, like, it's that opposite, just that self talk. And you don't have to wait until Monday. You don't have to start next week. Talking to yourself in a loving way is something that we all can do right now. It feels very strange. And Eddie knows this too. When you've talked with yourself in a hateful way for so long, it feels really alien. And it seems like it's simple, but it actually is a hard thing to do because it does feel so alien at first. But I think that that's one thing I would like to share if anybody's watching. So yeah.
I think we should call it moisturizer for your soul.
Yes.
Yes. I want to share one more thing. Last week I did something so vulnerable, and this is going to sound so crazy, so vulnerable. I was going to a book study, and I had a little fender bender last week, and I just don't like driving. My husband usually drives me, but he wasn't going to the book study. So I texted a friend and said, hey, are you going to the book study? Can I have a ride? Y'all, that sounds so small, but I have spent my life driving myself around, and I don't ask for rides. But when you asked about self-love, I thought, that starts to be really self-loving to say, I don't like to drive anymore. I don't feel safe or comfortable driving. And I asked a friend for a ride, and that was really vulnerable to do. And that was like so satisfying.
That is awesome. I love that. I love that. Gosh, I love that. Well, before we go, do you have any last words that Eddie you want to share?
Well, I just wanted to add on to your thank you so much. That ritual that you have with the lotion reminded me of one of the things that Don Miguel Ruiz mentioned in this book too, is like a bathing ritual that's similar to that. Because I don't use lotion, but you have to soap every part of your body. So starting from your head to your eyes, just like thanking every part of your body for what it's done for you, what the gifts and things like that. So I think it's very similar to that. And I think that type of a body scan is like, you're starting the day with like showing love to every piece of yourself is a beautiful thing.
And your body is the container in which you're fulfilling your life's purpose. If that's not a reason to love yourself, I just don't know if we could find one. Like literally you need your body. And what I like about that, Eddie, what you just said and what I'm doing with the lotion is just like it's a physical and a symbolic action. Like it's tangible and intangible at the same time. It can be a spiritual act and it can be a physical act. And it just, yeah, like that's the kind of stuff that really changes me and changes us from the inside out. So yeah, I appreciate that you shared that. Wow. Well, everybody, thank you so much. You two I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, but you stay on. I got to get pictures. Okay. Like this stuff is we're not over, but for everybody who joined us, whether it was live or the replay, we appreciate you so much, especially Sarah, Cindy, Stacy. Thank you for watching. Barbara and Eddie, you're amazing that you jumped on, and I'm so glad you did. And I hope we get to do this again. Everybody, we'll see you soon. Bye.